Hi everyone, I'm Vincenzo Calla, and today I'm here with MPP Lisa MacLeod and our friend Dean Tester, and we're going to talk a bit about Lisa MacLeod's year in review. 2023 was a really exciting year, and we're going to talk a bit about that, and I'm going to ask Lisa and Dean a bit about Nepean, what has happened this year, and where the province is heading in 2024. So thank you for having me ask the questions, Lisa. Thanks, Dean, for being here, and I'm excited to be able to do this.
Well, thank you very much, Vincenzo. It's great to have you. Summer student turned contract worker here at the office. And of course, Dean being here, a longtime friend of mine, Dean Tester. Obviously, you're not only just a political professional and owning Tester Digital, but really somebody who has a big advocacy role in the city when it comes to housing. And so the two of you have been responsible for sort of my digital overdrive this past year, or my social media makeover, I guess is what we might also call it. So it's great to be here. Thank you very much for hosting me in my office.
Well, I'm glad we're able to switch things around because you've been the host of Sunrise EO, which I guess we'll talk a bit about a bit after, but you've been the host the whole time. So we can switch it around and I can ask you the questions like I did earlier this year. So I guess first off, how was it getting back into it this year in 2023?
Yeah, so I mean, Dean and I were just talking about it. Obviously, with my illness, I had to take some time off to understand it. Then, of course, dealing with medication and then other hospital visits, it's not been as consistent as I would have liked after I went back to work. But he and I met, and you correct me if I'm wrong, probably in June of last year. And I said, you know, I still have a very big passion for the community. You're an expert at social media. What can I do to sort of get my message out in a different way? Because I have changed a bit. Like, you don't like say you've changed a lot, but you know, my perspective on a lot of things has changed, and the way I do my public policy work has changed a lot. So you know, I'll hand it over to Dean, but that conversation I think has been pretty pivotal. And what do you think in terms of the year that was, that where we've come to where we're going and that sort of thing?
Yeah, well, I have to say it's been an absolute pleasure working with you and getting to know your excellent team here in Nepean, including Vincenzo. And you know, you've been doing incredible work for so long in the community. I've been working in politics for close to 20 years now. I probably look a little younger than I am.
28 years old, so.
Yeah, and you know, my first provincial political event was your barbecue when I was still a student at Carleton, and I went on to work at Queen's Park for a while, and we worked together there, and you know, we've been friends ever since, and I've really appreciated every opportunity you've given me, and I'm really happy to be able to give back and continue to support your important work.
Well, I appreciate that, because the two of you together, of course, Vincenzo does a lot of the social media stuff, so you're sort of guiding him along, and he's learning so much, and he's already brought a lot to the table. But between the two of you, you're responsible for the content that I'm putting out, and all of the great work that I seem to be doing. And I can't go a day at Queen's Park or out in the community, and it happened again to me last night, where someone says, I love this particular video, or I love that particular video, and it's one or you. It's not like I'm the one that's speaking the language. I'm the one that's, you know, telling the tale or doing the work, but the behind the scenes who's creating what is easy to watch and easy to scroll through is what you guys have been doing. So I want to thank both of you. It's been a real tremendous excitement and experience for me.
Well, it's been super fun this year to, you know, see how things have gone. Lots has changed since you became an MP back in 2006. Most of these platforms we're on right now weren't as developed or even around back then. Like, YouTube has developed greatly since that time. Twitter, X is different, you know, we'll say that about Twitter, and all these different things have changed. Yeah. And I guess before we go back to talking a bit about social media, earlier this year, before you were a minister, you had lunch and learns and power hours where you brought in people. And this year, Lisa hosted 6 of them, I believe, on mental health, Alzheimer's, diabetes, Rowans Law, and a bunch of other different topics that were important to the people of Nepean to learn about. And she had lots of people come into these. And I just want to ask you, how was that this year, bringing back the lunch and learns and interacting with your community in that way again.
Yeah. So I've always been a grassroots politician. I learned politics from my father. I'm an Atlantic Canadian. He was in politics for decades. My cousin was premier. My great uncle was a cabinet minister as well. So, public service is something that's ingrained in my family's DNA. And doing sort of grassroots events like that were what I thrived on when I was in opposition, and now in government able to do it again, but in a way that we're able to bring people, put out some sandwiches. Sometimes I cook. I just recently did the 8 turkeys that I just made for about 100 of our lunch and learns for our holiday event, and that was a wonderful experience. But it's great to bring out and almost have a master class where you're bringing in an expert from dementia or concussions or mental health, as you mentioned, diabetes, heart issues, and then having about 100 people there, mostly seniors, but a lot of people. They're asking questions that either affect themselves, their family members, or they're just becoming more learned about this experience. So these Lunch and Learn masterclasses have been really a tremendous experience, and it's really great to see people. But I do know it went through Ottawa that I made 8 turkeys, and that we peeled 8 bags of potatoes, and we self-catered, me and the girls here, our own turkey dinner, and it was so much fun. But I tell you, that was a lot of work. But going right back to your point, I can't wait till the 2024 series of these Lunch and Learns, because they are what makes the community tick, in my opinion. People coming together that don't know one another, but come together for a good cause. And in many of these issues, it's a healthcare related cause.
If I could just add quickly, I had the chance to attend your Lunch and Learn on Rowans Law, and I thought I knew a lot about concussions, but I learned so much from it. And as someone who's worked in politics, often I'm on the other side of it, where you're doing partisan work, you're trying to fundraise, you're trying to persuade voters, and what you're doing is the hard work of being an MPP and representing your community and trying to add value to the people who live there. And I think that's so important, and it's such a wonderful example for other parliamentarians and other politicians.
Well, thank you. And what was really important for you to be there, and your wife Victoria, who was videoing that, is because Rowans Law, which is Canada's first concussion legislation, was created here in Nepean, Barrhaven, by me with the community, because of Rowan Stringer's tragic passing from multiple concussions, second impact syndrome. And so you were there for that, which was incredible. You guys did great work, and punching out that, that's like maybe not the right word, but getting that message out there is really important, because you can get a concussion playing sports, you can get a concussion in your car, you can get a concussion while you're walking down the road, you can get a concussion while you're walking down your stairs. And people have to be cognizant of the risk of that and what the future impacts will hold.
Well, yeah, I attended the mental health Lunch and Learn. That was one of the ones I was able to attend because I was done.
I hired you. Right on the spot. I said, I did, Dean. I looked at him and I said, oh, Vincenzo. I knew Vincenzo, and his mom was there. And I said, you know what? You should come work for me for the summer.
Yeah, test it out, see how it went, and here we are in December. Actually, today is the 20th, right?
Yeah.
6 months.
Wow.
Yeah. But
I'll have to go get a cake for you for your anniversary.
Well, I want to talk a bit about first of all, that Christmas dinner at the time of this filming would have been yesterday, and that was really good. It was a really good community event that brought everybody out, and a lot of your work was showcased by showing off people, you're back, things are going well, things are changing for the better, and Nepean is this great community that you've been able to represent for 18 years, and you've done lots during that time. And back to the social media now, that's really changed a lot of how things have happened, how you've been able to do things in the past year. And you launched Lisa Builds this year, talking about the building of Ottawa, being that voice for Ottawa. What was that like to really cement Lisa Builds back into things this year?
And I think about this for Jan Harder as well. Like, we can drive around Barrhaven in particular, but me for the rest of Nepean, and see the things that you've had a hand in building, or where you've fought for infrastructure funding, or the school that you had lobbied for years, all coming to fruition. So I do have a history of building up this community with provincial resources, but I never really capitalized on it, and didn't really matter. But this year I sort of wanted to say, okay, I am pretty proud of the things that I've been able to have my hand in. I didn't build it myself, I didn't design it myself, but I did have a hand in getting it built. And so, and I think it just also speaks to the fact that we are a growing community that needs to continually build. And so for two reasons, I think that's kind of important. One is to actually say, this community is high growth and requires building, but also there is a diversity. And that's, if you want to go back to that lunch and learn that we had for the holiday season, what was really cool about that was the diversity that was in that room. And really, I would prefer everybody to get along as neighbors and friends and build the community up together than see the differences that sometimes we see. Tragically, of course, some of the issues that the Muslim and the Jewish communities are facing right now, and obviously what's happening around the world. And I don't want that to play out here, because we're all friends, we're all neighbors. If we see anti-Semitism, we've got to stand up, we've got to call it out. If we see Islamophobia, we've got to stand up and call it out. If we see anti-black racism, we've got to stand up and call it out. It doesn't take a special person to do that. It takes a human person to do that. And so for me, every event I have, I like to include everybody. I don't want to exclude anyone. I want everyone to be part of the growth of this community and feel like they belong in this community. And if they do something wrong, they should, to hurt another neighbor, then we have to stand up firm and say we have zero tolerance for that hurt.
So you mentioned a lot there, and I want to first build on some of the projects and some of the things that are going on right now. So if we look at 2023 in review, there's lots that happened, but housing was one of the biggest issues.
I'm letting Dean start with
That's what I'm going to ask Dean.
He is the expert.
So that's what I was sort of posing this question for to Dean. We had lots of visitors come into our riding this year and into Ottawa, and we talked a lot about different issues and different things and different investments in Ottawa. And we saw an Ottawa community housing development that Dean was with us that day to talk about the new growth in housing, community housing right here in Barrhaven, right near the new Barrhaven downtown, and lots of the new development that's coming along. So Dean, can you maybe talk a bit about Make Housing Affordable, and then some of your thoughts on how things have been going to build more housing in the province of Ontario?
And don't hold back.
Don't hold back. Uh-oh. You're in trouble, Lisa. No, so you know what? It's we obviously have a very acute housing shortage, both in Ottawa, in the province, and across Canada. And there's a few reasons for that. The main reason being supply has simply not kept up with demand. Our population has grown at a much faster rate than we've been able to build homes, and there are quite a few barriers in the way to getting those homes built. A lot of those exist at the municipal level, some exist at the provincial level, some exist at the federal level, and a big part of my advocacy with the group I founded called Make Housing Affordable has been focused on the municipal level and encouraging we think of this as very bureaucratic. What could be less interesting than zoning reform? Well, we see the results of people not paying enough attention to these issues that don't seem important until they are, right? And so we've got a city here in Ottawa where it's illegal to build multi-unit housing on the vast majority of residential land. It's illegal to build housing that's taller than 2 stories. It's illegal to build more than 3 units. And when you're talking about apartment buildings, we're really only allowed to build those in a few places in the city. And the consequences of that is we have not built enough housing here in Ottawa. It's not a unique to Ottawa problem. I would say just about every city in the world has faced some variation of this issue, but it is very acute here. Ottawa is a city where people want to live, right? Like, it's a beautiful city. Why wouldn't people want to move here? And so we're trying to attract the best and brightest. We want young families to not just stay here, but move here. We want to create good jobs in our community. We need to build the housing to meet that challenge.
But here's one thing I hope you'll elaborate on. Both the federal and provincial governments have accelerator funds, effectively is what we'll call them, but to give a significant amount of money to Ottawa if our city starts to build. Can you talk a little bit about that? Like that's almost, we would be eligible for, like, what is it, just about $240 million between two levels of government?
Yeah, so the initial proposal from the City of Ottawa was for $130 million from, about $130 million from the federal government. And in exchange, the federal government is asking for things like legalizing 4-unit multiplexes citywide. And those negotiations are still ongoing. I think the city thinks that they're going to get a deal, but I know there's some backroom negotiations going on there to try and figure that piece out. The provincial program, which I actually think is the much better approach, is there's about $100 million on the line for the City of Ottawa. And in order to unlock that funding, we have to hit our housing targets. So the city has a housing target of building, I believe it's 150,000 new homes over the next 10 years. So that's about 15,000 homes per year, or housing units rather. And right now we're on pace for around 6,000 this year. So we're not even close, right?
No, they're not even trying.
And that's the frustrating bit, is there are so many things on the table that we know work, that we have seen other cities, other jurisdictions adopt, that we know work. We've seen rents actually go down in other cities when we make these types of reforms.
And people make that mistake too about Nepean. They think everybody owns a very large McMansion, and that's all that everybody has out here. But the reality is there's a lot of people that are renting.
Yeah.
And they're renting in sort of condos or
I rent in Nepean.
in a townhouse. Like,
Yeah.
so people don't realize that when we're talking about here, even though we're high growth, the high growth only goes so far, and rent is high even in the burbs.
Absolutely. And so I think there's a lot the municipal government can do. I also think the provincial government has a lot that they can do, and this is where I'll challenge you a little bit, Lisa.
Oh. Cut.
But 2 years ago, the province put forward what I would have called the most ambitious housing legislation in the country. We had Bill 23, which legalized 3-unit multiplexes province-wide. We had Bill 109, which was designed to speed up approvals and cut out a lot of red tape out of the building process. And combined these two pieces of legislation, I think were very thoughtful at the time and very helpful for accelerating the growth of housing in our community. Yeah. What's happened since is the housing crisis has gotten far more acute, right? It's happening at a more rapid pace. We saw in the last quarter, Canada has added nearly 500,000 new residents, which is just unheard of. Yeah. And most of those people are coming to Ontario. And
they're coming to Ottawa and Toronto.
That's right. That's right. They land in the big cities. And so, what we actually need, we're just not meeting the scale, right? And this is really where we need an all hands on deck approach. And so our municipal leaders need to step up. I think the provincial government needs more housing legislation, and I know that's in the works, and I'm excited to see what comes of that. Yeah. And the federal government absolutely needs to do more. I mean, it's one thing to go to cities with a blank check and say, here, have some money, which seems to be the federal approach. But we need real, I think the carrot and the stick approach, where we say to municipalities, you got to get this done, or you're going to miss out on funding. And I think that's what the province is doing, and I think we need a little bit more of that. Yeah,
there's no question. It needs to be stronger, and I know there's been some confusion about what's going on over there as a result of some of the changes that have been made this fall. But I take your point. Like it's extremely important here when you see the number of people, particularly in Ottawa. I notice it more and more every day that are homeless or living in the rough, or unable to, in many cases, buy their own home. And why should they have to rent? So we have to make that affordable. And I think when you talk about zoning bylaws and those sorts of things, when no one is looking at that stuff, that's where the devil becomes in the detail, and it becomes very onerous on the developer. I just wish people would understand that especially on the left, is you can't complain about affordable housing if you're putting roadblocks up for people who are trying to build housing that's affordable.
And you hear this all the time. You hear people complaining about, luxury apartments getting built in our cities, and the people who are complaining are living in $1 million homes down the road, right? And housing is not a luxury. There are people living on the street here in Barrhaven.
Yeah.
I know when I go shopping at our Loblaws, I was chatting with a cashier the other day, and she was telling me how people just walk in and walk out with fistfuls of groceries because, nobody tries to stop them because these people need to eat to live.
I hear that all the time from one of my guys over in Bell's Corners who has a grocery store. He said over the last year, it's really been bad. It's people are really struggling out there.
And that's one of the other big topics that has been related to that. Affordability has been a massive issue this year. There has been increases in just about everything, and we've seen that in everything. And I know that the provincial government has been doing a lot for cutting the gas tax and cutting those sorts of things. And for 2024, what do you think should happen, Lisa, for a little bit more? What do you think could help Nepean a little bit more with our affordability crisis?
Yeah, I mean, and it's hard just to say it's just in one area because I really think when you look at what's happening, the crisis in the grocery prices is nationwide. The gas tax is incredibly, onerous on motorists and anybody who needs gas for any other means. And so when you're looking at that, and then plus the interest rates going up, it has made life very unaffordable for many people. So I would say, and one of the things we've been saying at the legislature is really let's just cut the gas tax. So we've been challenging the federal government to actually be cognizant of what we're going through as a country, and get rid of that. Like, it's a tax on everything, and it goes down the line. There's only so much work you can do in terms of bringing new jobs into the economy when people are not able to spend because they don't have the money in order to do that. So I think a lot of the big issues, the big ticket items, are federal. The sort of the lower ticket items are some of the things we can do in terms of, getting rid of red tape so that people can move faster to build faster, and then making sure we've got good roads, bridges, and transit. I'd say that's the big one, but time and time again, all I'm hearing is this gas tax. And you know what? I'm the grocery shopper in my house, and so I'm the one that if I go grocery shopping with my husband and he puts in something that's $5.99 and I see you can get it cheaper for $4.99, plus I can get some PC Optimum points or something like that, or Scene points if I'm over at the Freshco, I switch it up. But that's maybe the mother that's from the Maritimes in me. But I got to tell you, it's a constant issue. Just looking at what the price of wheat will be, and how that's going to impact the pasta that we buy. That's a real thing. I tell my friends when I see butter on sale under $6. Like, it's a thing for me. That's what we do, and it really is going to come down to some of those macro policies by the federal government. So I do think hope is on the way, and let's hope it's quick.
Well, and I have a segue to that to go into the next topic. Yeah. So you're talking about affordability and, going to shop at different places and choosing different places to shop at. And I was excited last night. I saw David Hill, our councillor, posted something about the Green Bank realignment, and there's different things coming, and part of that is a no-frills going in Barrhaven. So that brings me to the next topic about the Green Bank realignment. That's bringing in lots of new infrastructure into our community, and part of that is the Barnesdale Interchange that I know is that was part of the announcements last year. And I know when you did the cooking show with David, you talked a bit about that. But how's that going? I know you've been having some meetings at Queen Park.
Yeah, I have had. So it's absolutely important. So anybody that doesn't know what the Barnesdale Interchange is, so it's another exit effectively off of the 416 coming into Barrhaven that will go right into sort of Half Moon Bay and make it much more easily accessible as a 416 than it has been. And the 416 is a people mover. It's underutilized. So that on and off ramp in 4 directions, I guess, is going to be incredibly important. So we made the decision to proceed as the MTO with a local developer, Kaivan, to proceed with the environmental assessment study. So that's gone through the Ministry of Transportation. So now it's going to require some funding and some support from both levels of government. And I've had numerous conversations with the Minister of Transportation in the last month, as well as his policy advisors and his staff, and I've sent off another letter to him just saying how urgent that this is. And I always tell people, keep in mind, we're Barrhaven for sure, but that interchange will support people that live in Manotick, which is the riding of Carleton. It'll help the people of Canada, Carleton. It will help the people of Ottawa West Nepean. It will help the people of Kemptville, who may come into Barrhaven for work, for example. And that's Leeds Grenville. So it really is, for an on-off ramp, it's going to be really kind of critical for this part of Eastern Ontario. In particular, this part of the west end of Ottawa, to the southwest end especially, to get that on and off ramp, to go to places like the Amazon facility, like Tomlinson, like the new hotel, and the hotel that's being built at the moment. So anyway, I'm excited about it. But we're working on it, and I know the Premier likes it because he committed to it during a town hall session with me during just the early stages of the pandemic. So I was thrilled about that.
Well, it's exciting to see that the Barnsdale Interchange is working. It's going to be happening. It's just a little bit behind the scenes right now, but it's exciting to see that is going, and that's continuously happening, and the discussions are continuously happening. Now, I want to talk a bit about something that I know, Dean, you worked on many years ago with a colleague of yours, and that is about the new availability of beer and wine in corner stores and grocery stores. And I know that you're close with Grant, and that was a big thing that he did, and you knew what was going on. So talk a bit about that, about the new, before we go on to Lisa, talk a bit about the new legislation that will happen by 2026.
Yeah, so I'm absolutely thrilled to learn that we're finally moving forward on this legislation. Beer and alcohol is going to be available in convenience stores province-wide. This is something that is the norm everywhere else in the world. I mean, anybody who's ever traveled knows that it's not unusual to go into a convenience store and grab a beer and walk out and drink it on the street. I mean, that's the way it is in a lot of countries. And, we've kind of been stuck in this 1920s Prohibition era legislation in Ontario. And over again, we've signed bad deals with the beer store to protect a bunch of foreign-owned companies who have a large monopoly over beer sales in Ontario. So we're modernizing this legislation. We're getting rid of the monopoly. We're bringing more convenience into more stores across the province. As someone who doesn't drink, this is to me just about personal freedom and about it's a good law that will help a lot of small businesses. And so this is really positive. And I will give a shout out to my friend Grant Dingwall, because this has been a battle, and it really shows you the power of individual activism and what someone who's passionate about issues can do if they've got the time and energy for it. So, Grant started this campaign with me probably close to a decade ago, and it was literally run out of our apartment. When we used to live together, and it's been running for a decade. We've probably spent under $1,000 all in on this campaign. And Grant likes to tell the story of, back when Patrick Brown was PC leader, we were having the policy convention. We were trying to get booze on the policy convention, and again, this speaks to the power of digital media. We ran an ad campaign encouraging people to write Patrick's staff and party staff about beer legislation. We spent $1.50 on digital ads, and someone from Patrick's office picked up the phone and said, "I'm getting your emails, please stop, let's talk about this." and we got it on the convention floor. It, of course, passed with flying colors, and we had another leadership race shortly thereafter.
As we do in the Progressive.
As we do, and Doug Ford was the first to come out and say, absolutely, let's get this done. And Kathleen Wynne had signed a bad deal with the beer store that took 10 years to expire. So, finally, 2026, we're going to get some movement on this, and I'm really excited.
And so I agree. And again, my congratulations and kudos, not only to Dean, but for sure to Grant, who has been relentless on this for a very, very long time. Also a former political staffer at Queen's Park and all-around good guy. And I just have to say, what's stopping us from doing more? And when I look at this beer and wine and spirits in corner stores, that's all well and good for me. I think that that's great. That gives people, consumers choice, that sort of thing. I'd like to see our airports have more things like they do in Nova Scotia called liquid assets. And I'll tell you why. It's not about the big guys, as you're talking about, that seem to be able to corner the market on these big deals. I prefer to support craft and local and anything that's been distilled local, brewed local, or created locally is something that I think we should get behind. And why do I say that? Is it something that I'm just going to go out and buy all the time and it's part of the economy? Yes, I think it's good for consumer choice. But more, I say this as the former tourism minister, I think it's good for our brand. And I think when you go to Ireland and you have a Guinness, or you go Corona or whatever you're drinking when you're down in Mexico, I just think it's good for our brand to have that type of choice. But also when people come here to see a product that they may want to take back home. And so I see in Nova Scotia, they have this thing called Liquid Assets that does that. And it shows you the entire province on the map. And it shows you on that map where each one of these products is made. And it, to me, it's another form of tourism. And I think that the whole choice issue is important, driving down the cost is important, but I also think making ourselves unique is another, or celebrating our uniqueness is equally as important.
So before I wrap up on my questions and turn it over to you for other discussions, I just want to talk a bit about just overall the year in review. We saw lots happening. We had lots of visitors to Nepean and to the riding. On my list here, I have about 8 to 10 ministers, including the Premier, came to Nepean or Ottawa in general and came to display anything from tool manufacturing at Veritas with Minister Fideli, or labor with the unions with Minister Piccini, and we had Minister Parsa coming to visit the Veteran Center, Minister Cho for the groundbreaking of the new Southbridge long-term care. Lots is happening in Nepean, in Ottawa, and what are your hopes for 2024, Lisa, for that to keep going?
Well, look, it's nice when they come to visit. My colleagues have always been so good to me, particularly when I was off ill. So it's always wonderful to have them, and they're always, they're always a text or a call away. So, they're always welcome here. That is for sure. I'm going to be working on a couple projects. You mentioned the long-term care facility. There's going to be a health clinic that opens with that, so I'm very excited. I've done some work with the Queensway Carleton Hospital. I want to see movement on some of their plans move forward. I've been working with Briere Continuing Care. I've always been a big supporter of them, and so I want to move some issues forward there. Obviously, Barnsdale exit, that's a big one for me, and I'm most likely going to spend a lot more time trying to combat some of the racism that we're seeing in the community, especially with the Jewish community. I've been very saddened to hear about the terror plot that was unveiled. What happened at Bayshore, I thought went too far. We've had some acts of anti-Semitism and vandalism on the roadways just across the street from the office here. College Square has been vandalized, and there's been bomb threats to Jewish day schools. And, I don't tolerate that. I wouldn't tolerate it for any group in society. And so my voice is going to be loud and clear in making sure that I defend not only democratic values and human rights, but also the public safety of our neighbors.
So that's all I really have for my ideas. I know that if there's anything else you want to bring up, is there anything else Dean, is there anything else you wanted to chat about today before we sign off for 2023?
I'm always just happy to chat about more housing. I mean,
Yes, we know.
Yes, I'll never stop. But I don't know. What about you, Lisa? What was your highlight of 2023? You had to pick a top moment.
You know what? I'm gonna pick a month. It was this month, December. You know, it was hard to get up and going last year, and I was really debilitated. And then getting back, and it is, yes, like getting back on a bike, but at the same time, it's not always that easy. But this month really was a shining example of what it means to dedicate your life to the public, and to have it culminate with this initiative here, and then also with the lunch and learn that we had, like that to me was sort of the highlight. And there were days that I piled through, you know, dealing with medication that I was not sure it was working, or dealing with some of the effects on my sleep. So this has been good. And so I would have to say I got to thank so many people for their patience with me over this period of time. Dealing with a mental illness is not easy, and it affects everyone around you. And to do so in such a public way, because I've had to, wasn't sort of the easiest thing, but I sure did feel the love. So thank you all very much.
That's great. And I just want to say, as someone who's also struggled privately and a bit publicly as well, I mean, it's incredibly brave the way you've been able to share your story, and it's meant so much to me, and I know it's meant a lot to a lot of other people. So, thank you for doing that, and it's great to see you doing so well, and back to yourself and fighting hard for the community, and it's so appreciated.
Well, thank you very much. And Vincenzo, I have to say you've been a breath of fresh air in the office. You've been a lot of fun. And your mother and father are just wonderful people, great constituents, of course. You got to tell us, because you have one more paper due. How is your second year at University of Ottawa going?
It's going well. This was definitely the most hectic semester so far. I've been told they get crazier and crazier as you get up in the years. But yeah, it's been really good. Lots to learn, lots interesting, some not interesting as well. But that's all a part of it. And getting through it and learning more and understanding how things work in the academic world and seeing how things are going have been a really interesting experience, in balancing that with all the other things that have been going on in life. And it's been really, really good. But, thankful that school is normal. I'm very fortunate that I got into university right after the main part of COVID ended. In terms of the regulations and the rules, I've had a fairly normal university career so far. Some online courses, but those are here to stay. That's part of the new reality. But things are going really well, and very appreciative to everybody who has given me support, to you too, for your support and flexibility with everything that's been going on in my life and with school and all that. And it's been really, really great. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you. And I'm just going to say this, and I'll speak directly to you, my friends and my viewers. I want to say thank you for an incredible year. 2023 for all of us has been one of ups and downs, excitement, some pitfalls. But at the end of the day, we've all gotten through it together. And I want to say in particular thanks to these two gentlemen, my friends, two people who helped me get my groove back and were very patient with me. Dean Tester of Tester Digital, who has been responsible for many of the production of the videos, as well as his wife, Victoria, and we hope she's feeling better soon. And of course, Vincenzo Calla. Vincenzo here is a student, as you know. He's been our summer student, and hopefully he'll come back. But he's been by my side, taking video clips, working on the posting, and making sure that I'm out there and being seen when I'm out there. And it does show you as well in the importance of social media and also of the content. And so I'm very lucky to have two people that know politics, communications, as well as our community. So thank you all very much. I want to wish you a Merry Christmas if you've celebrated celebrated Hanukkah. I hope it was beautiful, as well as Diwali, if you've celebrated that as well. And to those celebrating other things or not observing, I do hope you have a great holiday season. And to all of you, Happy New Year. May 2024 bring Nepean much success, some prosperity, and of course, good health.